Welcome to Movie Valhalla, where brave movies go to live forever. While there's so many movie podcasts out there that just focus on the negatives and poking fun at lower budgeted movies, we decided we wanted to be a little different here and only dwell on the positives. And we're not going to do the big Hollywood movies. We're going to do the little movies that can, the brave movies, the movies where the directors and actors and set designers and special effects artists really put themselves out there and attempted something daring and different and independent. So those are the movies that deserve to be Movie Valhalla, and those are the movies we're going to talk about. Welcome again to Movie Valhalla, where brave movies go to live forever. There's a lot of podcasts out there that like to poke a little bit of fun at the B movies, the less than Meryl Streep movies, the less than Tom Hanks in the 90s movies. But here at Movie Valhalla, we recognize these not quite top-tier movies for the gems that they are, and we only talk about them positively. So today, I got with me Seth.
Hello.
And James.
Hello, everybody in Valhalla land.
And we are going to talk about just an absolute gem. Definitely, I guess I say this too much, but because I like picking really good movies for this. But this is, to me, like without a doubt, one of the best B movies ever made, one of the best Kung Fu movies ever made, just one of the best. Oh my God, I don't know what else I can even say about it. One of the best Hong Kong movies ever made, and that is The Story of Ricky, or Ricky-O. And to give you a real quick rundown on the plot of The Story of Ricky, basically Ricky is an incredibly handsome young Chinese man who gets sent to a corrupt private prison.
Come forward.
Ricky Ho, 21 years old, sentenced to serve 10 years for manslaughter and assault.
While there, he has to use his supernatural strength to defeat the 4 prison gang leaders and restore law and order to the prison and do what's right and engage in unbelievable amounts of ultraviolence to the point of where even Quentin Tarantino would be like, hey, let's tone it down a little bit. This is getting ridiculous. And that's basically Story of Ricky in a nutshell to me. So, yeah.
Look, Brian, in the pantheon of prison movies, and I'm talking about Shawshank Redemption, I'm talking about Lock Up with Sylvester Stallone, I'm talking about An Innocent Man with Tom Selleck.
Werewolf in a Women's Prison.
Yes, Tango and Cash with Kurt
Tango
Russell.
and Cash.
And Sylvester Stallone. This ranks near the top of prison movies that I've seen. An Innocent Man, Lock Up, and I'll even throw The Last Castle in there with Robert Redford. It's one of the best, and thank you guys for letting me watch this with you. I can't wait to dive into it.
Yeah, your reactions while we were watching it is basically my reactions when I first saw it back when I was like 15, Seth's reactions when I first showed him over in Korea. It's just like incredulous laughter and just pure childhood delight at what you're seeing on screen. It's an amazing movie.
I think it's just the unbelievable aspects of this movie that really just kind of make your head spin.
Yeah, like what? What's one, for example?
Oh, I mean, there's just such a long list. I mean, but I think if we're going in chronological order, probably the scene that stood out for me first was the scene in the shower where he's got the battle with Gordo and
Zorro,
pardon me, and blasts him through the gut.
Yeah, say Goro's Mortal Kombat. Zorro is Story of Ricky, and only Story of Ricky. He was never a character in anything else.
And I think maybe there was some resemblance between the two characters.
Yes, definitely. Well, I would say one of my favorite parts about the movie then and still today, almost 30 years later, is I love that the movie relies on practical effects. Now, back then, of course, in 1991, you didn't have a choice. You had to do practical effects. But, like, just the sheer amount of dummies and, collapsible, crushable heads, and they had to plan out all these special effects and gore and stuff. It's just incredible. They must have made 30 or 40 different like body dummies for this movie to be destroyed. Because, some of them you had to have a backup because you had to destroy them more than once. And so it's just the amount of effects work that went into this martial arts movie is just really incredible to me, even today. So
for me, the thing that stood out like right at the beginning was they endeared you to Ricky through this hapless old man in the shower that made this wooden train for his children.
Ow. Yeah.
And he got his face scraped off, yeah.
He got his face scraped off, and then Ricky comes in as the saving grace for this old man, and you're like, yes, I like Ricky right now, because this poor old fella, he didn't do anything to deserve the ultra-violence that he ended up receiving from these baddies. And Ricky comes in and is like, I'm going to take this train, and I'm gonna put this right in my pocket, right next to my breast, right next to my heart, and this is what's going to fuel me through the rest of the film. So,
and Ricky is always standing up for the little guy, right? That's kind of his persona throughout the whole movie, right?
Right.
Well, you want me to just blow your friggin' minds? I'm going to tell you this: Ricky in this movie is a Christ figure, even though this is a Hong Kong martial arts movie. Besides the fact we have an actual cross appear in this movie, who is Ricky? Ricky is basically an innocent. He is, sent to this place basically where all this horrible pain and suffering is happening. He is constantly wounded and attacked for no good reason. He only has a good heart. He even tries to forgive those who attack him and tries to even help them and save their lives sometimes. He always tries to avoid killing, even though he always does.
Why don't you fight back? I want you to be fair. Let Andrew go. Then we'll fight.
And, in the end of it, basically Ricky, quote unquote, dies when he's buried underground alive and then comes back, after that. He is risen again 7 days later. And so Ricky is 100% a Christ figure in this movie.
Yeah, I wouldn't disagree with that. I think there's other movies that you could probably draw parallels to.
Like what?
You could probably think of Les Mis with oh God, my
Russell Crowe?
literary. Yeah, no.
Hugh Jackman.
Yes. Sticking up for the underdog.
And Shawshank Redemption, of course. Direct parallels.
I'm telling y'all, this was the original great prison movie.
Yeah.
I
would say, like, in my life, influential prison movies, number 1 is probably Great Escape. Number 2 is Story of Ricky. Number 3 is Shawshank Redemption. That would be for me personally.
That's fair. I mean, you got to throw Cool Hand Luke in there somewhere.
I would. But Cool Hand Luke that has no kung fu, at no point in Cool Hand Luke, that was Newman, right?
Paul Newman, yeah.
At no point in Cool Hand Luke does Cool Hand Luke punch through a man's lower jaw out his mouth and a spray of gore fly all over, the assistant warden. So that's not against Cool Hand Luke.
How about Papillon? You got to throw Papillon in there too.
Papillon?
Papillon sounds like a thing women have to do every couple of years with a gynecologist.
Well, it's a butterfly, right? Butterfly.
Here's the thing. I'll be full disclosure here. I'm 38 years old. All right. If I would have seen that movie when I was 12, it may have been my favorite movie of all time.
I love this movie as a teenager. I've seen this movie probably 30 or 40 times.
Just the fact that you have Ricky. Not only is he a great badass character like an Arnold Schwarzenegger, Sylvester Stallone type person, he's like in the entire movie, he's licking his own blood, and every time he licks his own blood, it's like Popeye eating his spinach.
You know shit's about to go down. When you make Ricky taste his own blood, your life can be measured in seconds at that point on. Like it's over, it's done.
And the absolute fear in the opponent's eyes when he does it, they're like, "Oh fuck, I'm done, I'm dead."
You put a nail through his hand and he pulls it out and says, "It's all over."
Well, as we find out in the beginning, shooting Ricky with bullets just kind of pisses him off a little bit, because he still has, unironically, one of my favorite badass lines of all time, which is when the very beginning of the movie, when the prison guards X-ray him and with no protection at all, and they find out he has 5 bullets still in his chest. And they're like, "Why didn't you let the doctors remove it?" And he says, "They're souvenirs." Like,
yes. This guy, he can kick everybody's ass. He's like a video game character come to life. Is what he
really is. I was telling you earlier. I think like Ricky's basically a non-flying Superman, just like ultra-violent, directed by, God, I don't know, Michael
Paul Verhoeven.
Yeah, exactly. Yes, that's a
Paul Verhoeven.
Paul Verhoeven, absolutely.
Yeah.
I wonder if Tarantino's seen this though.
I'm sure he has. Tarantino's seen so much stuff.
Oh, he's had to have.
We're gonna do something a little special this time, just because I have it. When I showed my friend Zap Browsdower this movie many years ago, she loved it too, and we decided we were gonna make Ricky sayings, like Ricky facts, because you guys remember the Chuck Norris facts from back in the old days of the internet.
Right.
That stuff about Chuck Norris because of how badass he was. Now, anybody out here who's seen Story of Ricky knows that Ricky makes Chuck Norris look like a punk. I'm sorry, but it's true. Nothing Chuck Norris has ever been in, even when he fought Bruce Lee, was at this level of ridiculous badassness. So, give you some examples. Here are a few Ricky-isms. I'm not going to read them all because there are, I'm not joking, 9 pages of them. So here's a few that we came up with. We had Ricky's capacity for bone-chilling violence is the same as mass nearing the speed of light, effectively infinite. We had the second to last thing that goes through most people's minds when they die is, oh shit. The last thing that goes through their minds is Ricky's clenched fist. We had this one connects a few parts in our movies. Ricky's girlfriend was born with only the flight reflex. Ricky was born with only the fight reflex.
Well, okay. Here we go. Well, the confusing thing is like she didn't even try any other like avenue. It was just like, I'm going to jump off this fucking roof. It doesn't even matter. Instead, she goes straight up to the roof and just launches herself off. So
I will never be raped. I will die before I'll be raped.
Yes. Think about her commitment, her bravery, the character's bravery. She's just like, we're done. I mean, it's kind of like Ricky in a way. It's just like, when it's on, it is 100% on. There is no half measures with Ricky. Ricky doesn't just train. He gets entire tombstones thrown at him, and he bashes them to pieces with his chin. Like, Ricky does nothing halfway.
Hey, when you're training in a pinch.
Good.
There's nothing like a tombstone to test your strength.
And every time I go to the cemetery and start kung fu kicking tombstones down, people yell at me. The police arrive. Like,
fascist.
no.
Well, she was clearly saving herself for Ricky. And
Yes.
if it wasn't going to be Ricky, then it was death.
Well, wouldn't you? I mean, look at that dude. He's beautiful. That is one attractive man.
Agreed. And look at her kidnapper. I mean, he had the gold chains around his neck. He had some chest hair popping out. He was about 40, 50 pounds overweight. I don't blame her. Fuck that.
He was the Chinese Ron Jeremy.
I was going to say, he looked like the warden's son grown up.
Yeah. Oh, the warden's son.
The warden's son. James, tell us a little bit about the warden's son.
So he's in Arrested Development, obviously.
Is he Michael Cera?
He's in his late 20s, early 30s, and he still acts like he's a toddler.
Yeah.
He wears nightcaps and gowns and everything, and he's very fat because he's eating all the sweets, the cakes, the little Debbie and all that stuff, and the warden is very protective of his fat son, and the entire time he's kicking dirt on Ricky and laughing in his face, saying things like, "Now's the end of you," ha ha ha, and running away, and he's the second best character next to the assistant warden, who we'll get to soon enough, I'm sure.
Well, how about Seth? Why don't you tell us about the assistant warden?
The assistant warden is classic. I think that, he's the classic kind of henchman in a story like this, because he's got the fake eye, he's got the claw, he's got a prolific collection of pornography. But
everything you described just sounds like a typical member of the Chinese Communist Party. What makes it so different?
And I think, and he carries his mints in his fake eye, and complains about his rotten mints in his fake eye. I mean, just everything about the guy is just outstanding. I think he is the perfect kind of right-hand man to the warden, and in some respects, even better than the warden.
Don't you ever take me for a dummy. I'll teach you a lesson. Well, I want to see for myself how tough the man who killed Samuel really is.
So,
yeah, and until the end, yeah, the warden's kind of milquetoast till the end when he transforms into ugly Chinese Incredible Hulk. Yeah, but it's like the movie. You could kind of see like, okay, it's a little bit crazy, ultra-violent, but you can kind of take it seriously until you meet the assistant warden, and then it's like almost cartoonish in a way, which. I was telling y'all this movie's based on a manga, and I feel like this is definitely the manga influence. This weird seesaw effect of ultra violence and melodrama combined with Three Stooges style, like, physical comedy and like goofy faces and falling down and stuff. And it totally clashes tonally, and yet the whole movie is so much fun. It just works so well together. Oh,
well, and when you think about the assistant warden, and you made the comparison to Shawshank Redemption, I can't remember what the warden's name was in Shawshank Redemption, but he had a taste for the finer things in life.
Yeah.
And the assistant warden in this film as well had a taste for the finer things, particularly the orange drink. He definitely had an affinity for his orange drink.
Oh, we got Coke, we got purple stuff, we got Sunny D.
We got Sunny D. Sunny D. Here's my question. So at the very beginning, the first time we're introduced to the assistant warden, he's got this big slab of meat in front of him that he's just chewing on. It's got blood everywhere.
James, that slab of meat has a name. It's called Ricky. And it's
here's my question.
Is it human?
Are they cannibalizing in the prison?
I don't know.
That's what I was thinking too.
Yeah, I don't know.
I was thinking that too, because when he was dragging some of the bodies away and they put them in the grinders.
Yep.
Going, are they eating these folks?
Could be. Nothing is too evil for our evil characters in this movie. They are shockingly evil to the point of where when everybody sees this movie for the first time, when the violence happens to some of our poor, nice characters, you're just like, oh my gosh. Did they seriously just skin that poor child alive? Like, and why am I laughing at it? It's oh my goodness, it's so terrible.
Well, yeah.
Go ahead, Seth.
I mean, it's so Quentin Tarantino-esque that it's almost unbelievable. I think that's why you laugh at it. When there's blood and gore like that, you're like, oh, it's so unrealistic, but at the same time, it's so comical.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can't help but laugh at it. I mean, it's so cartoonish and wonderful and just over the top that there's no way you can't be sickened by it. If you're sickened by it, then I feel bad for you because you don't have a sense of humor. You have to watch something like this and take it as it is and say, yes, it's grotesque, but it's over the top. And it's meant to be buffoonery.
Well, it's the same reason why you watch Kill Bill and you enjoy it, right? You don't watch Kill Bill and take it literally, right? You're not enjoying that film for its realism. You're enjoying it for its over-the-top aspects, right?
The outlandish nature, absolutely.
Yeah, so here are a few more Ricky-isms, Ricky facts. Genghis Khan's hordes did not rampage across Asia and Europe. They were simply fleeing Ricky.
I like that one a lot.
Yeah. Ricky's official Social Security number is just a countdown. There are two sides to every issue. Ricky's right fist and his left fist. And one more for now. Ricky's motivational teachings are only one sentence. I've decided not to pull your kidneys through your knees. Congratulations. And I only got 8 more pages and about 50 more, 60 more Rickyisms.
Only 8 more.
Listeners, I'm going to put all these into one separate podcast of me just reading these Rickyisms because I'm sorry, I'm pretty proud of these. Zap and I worked on these together over the course of like 15 years. So there's quite a few. So
I love them. I love every one of them. They're really good.
I'm pretty proud of them because we tried specifically not to be Chuck Norris facts, and we tried to think of good Ricky facts, basically. So
you should get those printed on a coffee mug.
God, I wish. Man, like I so want more people to see this movie. This is a special movie. It's like they don't, it's honestly, they don't make them like they used to, but also
hell no.
Back in 1991, they didn't make them like they used to.
Ricky, you're all right.
I don't like to toot my horn all that much, but I'm kind of glad that I recommended that we watch this film and
I'm glad you did too. Yeah.
Agreed, Seth. Agreed. Well, here's the thing: is you hit on this, Brian? Just in your last statement, they don't make these kind of fun action movies anymore. They're all like freaking
too serious.
Yeah, well, they're Fast and Furious. Like I need another Fast and Furious movie. Like I need a hole in the head. Like I've got enough of the Fast and Furious. Like, I'm sorry.
Is this you talking or is it Vin Diesel?
Both of us.
I think Vin Diesel is just so like confused. He's like, God, another one, Fast and Furious 11. But Vin, we'll pay you $10 million. All right, whatever. I'll ride in a car. Okay, I'll talk about family. Whatever. Okay, fine.
No, but to kind of follow up on James' point, though, that I agree. Though I think a lot of action movies take themselves too serious now.
Yeah. And
I think if action films like this were just a little bit more playful, a little bit more video game like. Brian, you mentioned that this game has a lot of kind of call outs to video games. It's structured like a video game where you've got the bosses of the different sections of the prison. And
Ricky, here are some of my friends. The leader of the West Cell, Rogan. East Cell's Tarzan, and here's South Cell's Brandon.
If films like this kind of followed suit in a way, in this type of, I don't even know what type of genre you would call this type of film, but
let's see, blaxploitation is its thing. This would be like Hong Kong exploitation. I don't know, like it's like a women in prisons movie mixed with a martial arts movie mixed with a 1990 something Peter Jackson movie. Like this movie and Dead Alive are actually kind of similar, and like the violence is so over the top. It is just so fascinating and entertaining.
Yeah,
totally. I agree with that. Yes.
I don't know how well a movie like this would do in the mainstream market, but there's certainly an audience out there for it.
Oh my gosh, yeah! Like showing this movie at a midnight screening would just kill.
Uncle, watch out!
I mean, this would be like, it's not The Room, obviously, but it would be, you could be interactive with this movie too. Whenever Ricky's playing the leaf flute, people in the audience could throw leaves at the screen.
Right.
Whenever Ricky's burning the opium, everyone in the audience could be shooting up opium, I mean,
yeah, hey. The leaf flute is one of the things that he taught the young man how to play the leaf flute, and it wasn't even the flute sound. There were other instruments that were accompanying the flute sounds. Like, where did those come from? There's
a leaf orchestra.
Yes, a leaf orchestra. But no, there's something to that, Brian and Seth. Where like I don't know, man. It's just in the late 80s, early 90s, there was a certain type of movie where it was just unabandoned, fun. Like, we're going to get really gory here. Like I mentioned Hellraiser because you had the one character, the bad guy, that would shoot like strings of metal and like try to constrict Ricky with it. And I was immediately reminded of Hellraiser, like some of the Cenobites.
And the hooks, the chains. Yeah.
Exactly, the torture scene. You couldn't make a movie like that now, and no one would see it. It wouldn't be promoted. Everything has to have a big budget. Or if it doesn't have a big budget, it has to have a message. Like it's an indie film with a message. Like, I don't give a shit about a message. Entertain me. Like, I want to be entertained.
Yeah. I think the closest thing. Yeah. I think the closest thing that we'd see to the gore that we're seeing here, and it's not even really on par with it, would be something like a Saw, where the gore is just kind of outlandish, but it's not. This is much more playful,
Yes.
Like, I could see if we chop down the movie Story of Ricky into like 7 different anime episodes, it would totally work, basically. And then it wouldn't feel. So another thing I told you before we started watching it, something the listeners should know before they start watching it, just to be on the lookout, because you can make a drinking game out of this. Literally, every time Ricky befriends somebody, they die a horrible death less than 2 minutes later. Every single time, at least 4 times, maybe 5 times over the course of the movie. And it just keeps happening, and he has to avenge their death over and over again.
You just want to scream out to Ricky and be like, Ricky, stop making friends.
It'd be like if John Wick kept meeting new dogs, like stray dogs, and they kept getting killed later. And he's just like, I gotta avenge this dog now too.
Yeah, absolutely. No, you're right on the money about that. As his poor friends, and they all died terrible. Like you said, terrible,
horrible,
agonizing deaths. And Ricky, he takes his revenge, and damn it, he would. But here, okay, so Ricky is like this all-powerful, superhuman
god of destruction. Yeah.
I understand it's a movie, but damn it just takes them too long. Just rip through them sons of bitches, Ricky. Just go through it all. And to your point, Brian and Seth, deep down he doesn't want to do it.
No, he wants to wear sweater vests and fly model airplanes with his cute girlfriend. That's all he wants.
He don't have a guy.
Ricky has a code. He's got a code.
He does.
All right, boys. We're getting long in this episode because we all love Story of Ricky and we're all pretty drunk.
Yes.
So
what are you talking about?
Yeah, so now why don't you guys talk about one of your favorite scenes in the movies?
Oh, boy. I mean, I don't know, man. There's so many good ones. I guess it's when we first meet Zorro, and he's just drooling all over himself in the prison cell. It's just this big, fat, Buddha-looking man that's supposed to be scary and frightening, and he just ate a horse, is what they said about him. And he's just sitting in his prison cell, and he's drooling all over himself. That's when I knew I was in for a ride. I was like, okay, now I know what to expect from this movie. That's it. That's my favorite scene. I know it's kind of generic, but that was it for me. So what about you, Seth?
But I think that is kind of the essence of the film, when you think about it, kind of going back to the playful nature of the film. When you see a scene like that, you're like, okay, now I know what this movie is all about. I would say, in a similar vein, I think for me, the climactic scene in the film where the warden transforms into this super monster and they have the epic battle at the end. And I mean, It is almost cartoonish, right? That you see this, the transformation, and you see all this. I mean, the special effects were definitely not phenomenal at that time, and they definitely didn't. I don't know, Brian, you could probably speak to this better than I could, but the special effects were lacking in my estimation. But I think they did it well enough, and the battle was great, and I think it was a great way to end the film.
Yeah, I think once Ricky's already overcome the super strong giant Tarzan, the lightning quick, can kill you in 3 punches, Rogan, and the one guy with the terrible Backstreet Boys hair, whose name we can't remember. who had the
blonde
knitting
streaks.
needles. He threw at people. But yeah, so they had to make a challenge with the warden. And yeah, the special effects today are not great. And back then, of course, if you watch something like The Thing, it's going to have better special effects than that. But you have to remember, this was honestly kind of a low budget Hong Kong movie.
Right.
So the budget they put into it, you can tell it really went to the fight scenes and the practical effects. And they did the best they could, and their level of creativity and just reckless abandon with everything really makes up for that. For me, I think my favorite scene of the whole movie, I would say probably Ricky's fight with Tarzan in the cage that has a ceiling that collapses on you like a James Bond villain, and for some reason it's in a prison, as if they have need of this like more than once.
Right.
I just love it. I just love how violent the scene is, how unexpected it is. This weird moral code Ricky has. But making me choose his favorite scene from Story of Ricky is a real movie Sophie's choice. Like that's kind of impossible to do.
It's a challenge.
It is. So all right, coming up on the end, think about what's some advice you would give as a character from Story of Ricky to the listeners, and do the best you can to do it in one of their dubbed voices. Because I've never actually seen this movie in subtitles. I've only seen the dub, which I love, because clearly the entire movie was dubbed by like the same 4 guys.
Talk back to me over a towel? Samuel's at it again. He's a gang leader and the captain of the cell block.
He's friends with the guards.
Well, what can you do? All right, you better get on your knees and apologize.
Alternating their voices to like different pitches and everything. So anybody know?
I'll go. I'll
Okay.
go.
So which character?
Okay, I have to be the assistant warden.
Of course.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
I gotta be the assistant warden.
So James is giving advice from the assistant warden. So listeners, just imagine that he has a glass eye, a hook hand, and a giant porno collection. Go ahead.
Look here. Look past all the effects. It's okay. Don't worry about it. Ricky, he's very strong. But the warden's coming. Oh, don't worry about him. I'll be fine. Oh, when you watch this film, don't be offended. I'm. Ah!
You transported me right back to the movie. I thought I was hearing the assistant warden in person.
Thank you very much.
Seth, you got any advice?
Oh my gosh, this is such a hard one because there's so many great characters that
I know,
and
they all have totally boring normal names: Andrew, Oscar, Freddie,
Oscar,
Alan, Oscar the Chinese man, Oscar the Chinese gang leader.
Yes,
I think for me, if I was going to give advice, I would probably go and I don't even know what the warden's son's name is.
I don't think he ever had a name.
Did we learn what his name was?
No, I don't think so.
Well, if I was going to give advice through, and I don't think he actually speaks other than when he's kicking the dirt in the face of Ricky when he's being buried alive.
Yes.
If I was going to give advice through the voice of the warden's son, I would say, life is all about what's going to benefit me. I don't care about anybody else other than me. So Ricky, just die already.
Yes.
That does sound like his advice. I'm gonna go a slightly different route. I'm gonna give advice just from the generic prisoners in the movie, which, like I said, they all have like different variations of the same guy dubbing them. So I would say the generic prisoners of the movie would say, "All right, go, you can do it. You're our only hope. Yeah, what are you doing?" "I know, I don't think so." "Oh, look up there. Good job." And that's what advice they would give us if they could talk to us out of the movie.
Look over there.
Just so you know, this has a 7.1 rating on IMDb.
That's way too low.
7.1.
Basically, so 2.9
good,
people are just morons because this movie
Yes.
is amazing.
Absolutely.
Pretty good on IMDb though.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it should. It's like, this is one of those movies where, like, if you walk out of this movie hating it, like, I would understand, you know, the violence is too much for you, the story isn't there for you. Like, I get it, it's fine. But you have to understand it. Walking out of let's go back to the Fast and the Furious. If you walk out of the Fast and the Furious movie being like, there were too many car chases and not enough, like, you know, sitting around talking.
Right.
Like, what movie do you think you were watching? You know, this is story of Ricky. Exactly. You know,
right.
It isn't Sense and Sensibility. Although Sense and
Thank
Sensibility
God.
would be vastly improved if Story of Ricky was a main character. Or
yes.
Tarzan or somebody.
Yes. Zorro.
Yeah, I mean, I totally agree with that sentiment. I think, you know, you have to know the type of movie that you're going to see. And clearly anybody that's going to see the story of Ricky is going to know what the story of Ricky is before they go. They're not going to be like, hey, honey, let's go see the story of Ricky. Oh, what's that? Oh, let's find out together. No, it's not going to be one of those situations.
Absolutely. All right. We talked about the story of Ricky for a long time, even longer than The Room and all kinds of other stuff. So we got to bring this to a close so it's not too long. So I want to thank Seth and James for guest hosting this time.
Thank you.
Thank you, Brian.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
It was great fun watching the movie and having all the beers. And for all our listeners, if you've never seen Story of Ricky and we didn't spoil it too bad for you, go and find it and watch it right now. If it sounds like the kind of movie you might be into, I promise you will be into it. It is just an experience unlike any other movie, honestly. It really is. And so with that, everybody out there, be safe and keep watching them great, brave Movie Valhalla movies. See you later. Bye.
Later, guys.
Ha 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 ha.